I'm calling from Los Angeles, and I'm having a little problem under the name ThatUmbrellaGuy. I sent him my phone number at least 20 times in the chat and told him to call me. He ignored me. I'm a man. I filed the report. If you guys could take a look at it and give me a call back, I would love to hear what you guys can do to help us. We really need to kind of stop this guy at least until Monday. I told him to call me. I'm a man. I'm a man.
All right, how's it going, folks? Welcome. What a day! What a day indeed. You know, it's been an interesting one seeing Eve Barlow have the media go at them. I thought that was funny. Now I want to make something clear too, and I brought this up in my videos when we're talking about this. All of this was associated with an article that dropped talking about how Heard had quit Hollywood. Now, let's be real here. Hollywood quit Heard. Let's just be real about it, okay? This isn't a, yeah, you know, in the aftermath, it's kind of like you're already fired and then they're like, no, quit. Yeah, not really. Not really. Not how that played. Yeah, exactly. Well, to quote somebody that we've talked about, a certain monograph, how's that go?
Nay.
Exactly, Monty. Thank you for your input. I swear, though, but all of this stuff is fascinating to me because it confirms blacklisting. It confirms some of the craziest stuff we've talked about. You know, the things that media, they put bullseyes on people for discussing. You know, when we talked about this stuff, they did dozens of hit pieces. And I mean, this behavior went on until really the last couple of months. You know, the only bastion that these folks, they seem to think they own. Of course, they've still carved out a piece of the mainstream media because the mainstream media, they're always going to apparently simp for a abuser of men. Apparently they enjoy doing that, but also Twitter, of course, because Twitter, well, you can run freaking bots all day, every day. Apparently that's not a problem. But check this out. So today we had fun little articles start popping up. And the interesting thing is some of these outlets were outlets that shield hard. I mean, for years. Here, for example, we have the Daily Mail. Okay, the Daily Mail is the one to start this ball rolling, as it were. The Daily Mail, they mentioned something here. This is where Barlow comes in. They mentioned photographs back in October. They talk about, vacationing for AH. That was a puff piece that they did. They were trying to say essentially, oh, she's fine and well. She's just out here vacationing. She's taking a little time away from Hollywood. Taking a little time away, huh? Yeah. Like I said, lo and behold, just a few short months later, what do you end up with? You end up with that. How's it going, Fallen Hero? Thank you for the gifted membership, by the way. Appreciate that. Thank you. Now, this is a fascinating article too, because when I first saw the title here, I thought, are they talking about Eve Barlow? Are they talking about Eve Barlow? And sure enough, they were. I was like, everybody said this would happen to everyone. They were like, look at the track record here. Eve Barlow, she doesn't have the clout to take away. What she has is she has the ability to be useful. She served a very useful purpose. In fact, if you go back and you review some of that usefulness, we'll continue going forward. You have to remember, in addition to trying to strike channels, she tried to take mine down quite a few times. She got herself kicked out of a courtroom. I'm sure you might remember that. It was quite the thing. She ended up getting kicked out for quote unquote live tweeting, but that's not the reason. It felt like a compromise to take her out. Like she was going anyway. And the reason for that, well, it was pretty nasty. Here we have, transcripts of the insanity for all of this. And the insanity, what really happened, what led to this, I think it again shows that usefulness at one time, that usefulness, it mattered. Why? Well, hey, let's just do a little, I think this is really worth talking about here because, yeah, it's kind of funny, just to be honest. Again, get discarded by the wayside when you have no social currency left to give. Again, what was all of this about? I'm sure people remember it, but just in case, you had Eve Barlow. There was a discussion about a witness that gets kicked out of the court. Gina Duders. She's not allowed to testify. And remember, in the moment there, this was actually quite the big deal because it made it look like people that were associated with JD and associated with his camp were doing things that were to nefarious ends. You got to remember, like this made it look like she was going on social media. She was trying to keep up with things, but that wasn't the case at all. In fact, when you read through here, they talk about, hey, you remember that item that was given to AH's lawyer? Well, here's that Instagram post. Okay, so with that Instagram post, they provided a screenshot to a judge, and it had no date on it. Why would you do that? Well, because it was a lie. It was an out and out lie. They met about that too. They note it right here. The second document that you're looking at was her post. It shows the date, which made it very clear that the thing that they used to get her kicked out of a courtroom, the thing they said, oh, this shows that she's interacting on social media. Yeah, that was back in 2021. Here's the thing too. If somebody were to confront you with something like that, the automatic, you see this with the police. You see it all the time with the police. You think there must be some type of wrongdoing, right? Because why else would you be confronted in this matter? Why would you be confronted in front of the court? And if you did something, like, who knows? Maybe you did something you didn't, and yet maybe you did, right? Well, if you did, that's perjury. You got a real problem, unless you're AH. Then apparently you can perjure yourself all you want, right? But yeah, you could see why somebody would be like, oh, maybe I did that. Maybe I did. I don't want to argue with the judge. I don't want to argue with authority because, again, they would know best, right? What's up, Bessie? Thanks for the 2. Quit quit again, quit again after no one cares. Well, it's damage control, I think, but it's more damaging. It's like I can't really figure out the point of this. We'll look at the quitting thing in just a second because I want to get your opinion live on what you think it is. If it's an attempt at damage control that she pulled here with PR, it's the worst thing ever. It feels like it's supposed to be a quote unquote friend going out and doing this. I mean, it really feels like it feels like a knife in the back is what it feels like to me. It doesn't, if it's somebody trying to help, whoa, they did a bad job. So we'll talk about the why in a second too, why it comes up. What's up, Joetta? Thank you for the 50 there. Presto indeed. Oh, what a weird one. But anyway, so they go through this. They find out the way that the way that Eve Barlow ended up getting kicked out, just to note, was because after all of this stuff happens, you have the front 2 rows of the court. They were cleared. Those they're supposed to be for team. They weren't supposed to be for just randos setting up there, and apparently the judge thought that Barlow was part of their team. I mean, after all, she was interacting with the lawyers. She was doing stuff throughout the courtroom, throughout the court trial that you really don't do. You don't see done unless, again, that's part of it's part of your team. There were other people up there too that were doing interaction and stuff. And again, the judge was like, yeah, I didn't know that. Then the judge found out that there was live tweeting going on. Essentially, while sitting in the courtroom, you had Barlow violating a rule that the judge had put in. So all of this all condenses together. And the reason I bring that up is because that's damaging. That is very damaging business. I mean, when you think about it, you're talking about something that at the end of the day, it destroys the little credibility that these people maybe they have. I don't want to say that they're credible. I mean, that seems like a nice thing to say. I mean, considering this is the same person that compared being called fartlow. They compared that to the E version of what happened. Let's see. Here it is. Give me a second. Let me pull this up for you. So remember, I mean, this same person, for their victim credibility, for their victim statement, they said that when they were called fartlow, that was compared to. You see that word right there. You notice that. Now, a lot of people missed it because a lot of people weren't familiar with said word. That's a thing you sometimes you see with people that want to say something thinking that they're smart, So here, let me pull up the exact meaning because I don't want to downplay anything. So she's saying that being called fartlow is compared to, quote, an organized massacre of a particular ethnic race, in particular that of the Jewish people in Russia or Eastern Europe in the late 19th century or the early 20th century. So she's comparing being called fartlow to what happened to Jewish people under the Nazis and at other times too. Like that's insane. That is an insane comment. Like, so treating them with credibility, I'm very hesitant to say credibility. They also called it digital lynching. If we get to the point in society where calling someone a name, I do believe that there is a digital lynch mobbing. I do believe that when you falsely accuse people, for example, you destroy their lives, you take away everything, and it's meant to be an in-game blow. So I do believe that there are forms of, you could call it that. I'm very hesitant to call something lynching, because that is such an abominable offense. I mean, when you think about that, in reference. Again, she's saying, though, the word fartlow, which, who started that, by the way? Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen's the one who, so a Jewish man, like him or hate him, I find Seth Rogen unbearable most of the time. But like him or hate him, still saying that he's essentially a digital Yahtzee, yeah, that's pretty jacked up, right? That's been the type of damage control they've done for themselves. And, as far as the case, as far as all of this is concerned, looking back at it, I always like the overview when you go back and you examine things, because you can see kind of the strategy that was being utilized. What you had, in my opinion, what you had is a two-pronged offensive that worked for the longest time, mind you. It worked very well. You had AH going to establishment media. Establishment media meaning liberal slanted media, and you had Eve Barlow going to conservative media. They were covering all bases, and it worked. JD in the past, he had said something about a certain orange man. They used that as capital to attack. You had Barlow again appearing. You had AH appearing on the talk show circuit. You had AH appearing again in interviews and all establishment media there. And on the other side of that, you had Barlow popping up at places like Fox. They were spreading the word. Again, two-pronged, and it worked. It worked until this little pesky thing came up. Cameras. Can you imagine, by the way, if Eve Barlow, the stuff that happened with Eve Barlow, can you imagine if there weren't cameras in the courtroom? See, for me, I can imagine the headlines, because I saw the headlines. I watched what happened. We talked about it then. We talked about how Barlow handed something forward to the lawyers. They get all excited. They do something. Then they remove the jury and they start asking questions. So you could tell, you could trace it back. And maybe a lot of that blowback actually helped promote what came next. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure, I'm sure that it would have come up anyhow, but the reluctance, the speed at which AH's team just caved in, it made me think, yeah, you have undeniable proof of what happened. It's not just screenshots. You have live recordings. If you want to go the route and you want to say it didn't happen, yeah, you could actually drag in live footage, and the world saw it too. You didn't have a filter with the media. They won't tell you things like that. And I think that helped destroy credibility. I think over time, going out again and again, calling yourself a journalist and shilling this person, that destroyed credibility, if there was any to begin with. And after a while, no more Fox appearances. No more, no more Fox appearances. Anyway, give me 1 second. Let me catch these two super chats. Bucky Cat, what's up? Thanks for the 5 there. Looks like AH got caught dumping a grumpy on the streets of Madrid. Not much has changed with her. I saw an article floating around saying that she had done her business on the streets of Madrid. Now, remember, the first time that an article like that came up, it was a fake. It was actually it was promoted by a YouTuber that created that out of nothing. It was a fake picture they basically created. So I haven't looked at anything in that, but I'm always hesitant to declare something real. In this day and age too, there's another extra layer as well. I've been talking about, so this is not really an aside, but it is. Over the last few days, while we go through, we get everything finalized on our comic book, we have back and forth or whatever. While we're doing that, I've been playing with a side project. I've been playing with Chat GPT. It's AI. I've been playing with it to see how it could formulate a short story. I was curious what it'd do. We'll talk about that at the end of the video, or the end of the live stream. Now, in that, AI can do a lot. One of the things you can do with technology, you create deep fakes, you can fake. I mean, it's crazy. So I'm always hesitant. I'm not saying this stuff doesn't exist, but I'm always hesitant. I always have to see and make sure. What's up, Rhea? Thanks for the 2. Which came first, the turd or the fart low? I actually think the the fart low thing, like I see, the chicken and the egg joke, but for real, the fart low thing actually ended up ended up being bigger news because even if somebody came up, the name itself, it was popularized. The turd reference was popularized in the courtroom by AH's own team. Like that, what an own, right? What an own indeed. What's up, Steven? Thank you for the 5 there. Indeed, indeed. So let's look at having said this, and we will come back to some of this. And the reason I mention all of that, by the way, is because this is a person that tried to destroy my channel. They false struck it. They had people mass flag. They said that it was a safety concern. They brought me up in court documents about this, saying that because I talked about a trial, which I have every right to fucking talk about a trial. They're court documents that are open to the public. I was talking about those, but they said, "Oh, because you're talking about that is a safety concern. You can't do it. I mean, the media can, but you can't. You can't. You have no right." So they tried again and again to take away the fundamentals of speech. They tried to do damage control. They even admitted to doing PR. There was a video that came out that said, that they would go, they would call AH, they were traveling. They were basically that shoulder when they needed support. And then apparently, well, according to the media, at least, they hit the skids. So check this out. All right. I did a video today too. If you have not watched the video today, please make sure to check it out. Make sure to get it rolling. The reason I mentioned that, by the way, is because I have been slow in uptick as far as content is concerned. I had some illness, and when you're away, YouTube doesn't love you. It did good. I mean, it's doing well, but like I said, every hit helps, and it revitalizes the channel. It's so crazy. YouTube's like, "Oh man, having issues with your health, are you? Well, you're not uploading every day, baby." Yeah, it's like, "Okay, I hear you. I hear you." No vacation days. I gotcha. It's crazy. But anyway, so the Daily Mail ends up dropping this. Now, this again, you look at the day they updated it. They dropped it on the 4th. They updated it on the 5th. I'd be curious exactly what they updated to. I haven't looked at their new updated version, so we'll see. We'll see exactly like if they added anything. But there are a few things in here that surprised me right from go. First of all, they admitted something that the media doesn't admit. This is actually kind of this is a revelation for the media, not a revelation for you and I, but this is a revelation for the media because they always say that she wasn't blacklisted. Again, you say shit like that, they put a bullseye on you. They put a bullseye on a lot of people. I mean, I can't even count the amount of hit pieces that came out, which are great, by the way. Thank you. Thank you for getting me subscribers, mainstream media. But they called you a liar and a fraud. They try to destroy your life. Well, now they're adding a tiny caveat. And this is actually a big statement when they talk about career. So they noted here, Heard hasn't worked since filming Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Now, remember, they keep saying again and again that the Lost Kingdom is some kind of win here, despite the fact that that Warner Brothers didn't want the woman to work with them because, well, you can guess why. Actually, it's interestingly, the time there, she says it's attached to the case itself. Other sources have said no, it's because, well, you're dealing with the person themselves. They're not fun to deal with. I mean, we are talking about someone that if you look at video evidence and more, I mean, they seem to, they always like to talk about the JD substance problems. Well, they have some substance problems of their own. As we heard in the courtroom for years, they had a 1 to 2 bottle of $500 wine baseline. That was their baseline. So it could go up from there, but every day they were at least consuming 1 to 2 bottles of $500 wine. Now, we saw pictures as well with her and Barlow, of course, with Heard strutting it out and Barlow carrying the groceries. I mean, we all saw those pictures. And what were they carrying? They were carrying box wine, boxes of wine. Let's say it that way. But they were carrying boxes of it. And I mean, that tells you that there's a problem. So, yeah, maybe that's a little problem there too. You're also, you have banner, like if you go back to Aquaman 1 and you actually look at some of the words that were exchanged, things that were considered playful banter back when between Momoa and her, doesn't sound like that anymore. In fact, I found two things that tell me that movie franchise, they are absolutely done. Stuff I missed. I missed somebody showed me this today. I've got to put this in a video because I missed, I mean, there is, we have the golden parachute. We have the date changes, the lineups against things. We have the fact that there's no promotional going on. You drop a trailer. The promotional, oh my God, just give me 1 minute. I've got to make fun of something really fast. So that promo, let's see, Aquaman trailer poster. The poster to that, I don't know how many of you actually saw the poster itself, the teaser that came up with CinemaCon, but that was the funniest thing I've ever freaking seen. I mean, it's the laziest poster I've ever seen. Like, check this out. This tells you that you got to remember, first of all, we'll go back to that article in just a second, but you got to remember, first of all, that this movie cost $200+ million already. Okay. So you got to think of it in double too. All right. You, after the beer bug, you have, let's just say 50% of sales goes to the outlets, the movies, and the other 50% goes to you, right? So $200 million right off the bat, you're going to have to recover $400 million or thereabouts. Again, it's not exact science, but international is lower than 50%. So when you put it all together, let's just say a happy medium of 50%. Now, when you get into advertisement, large movies, they end up doubling their budgets. That's typically what you see from a giant superhero film, but Aquaman is different already, even without Remember, this was made under old management. You are having a reboot of the entire DCEU. They're rebooting everything. Aquaman is a relic. It is an absolute relic. So they probably don't want to spend any money, and it shows right here. Look at this teaser. I mean, you had, when this movie first came out, you had pictures of ice. This is what their digital art looked like. I mean, think about this. I'm going to sell you with pictures of ice. And I mean, really, think about how amazing this is. You have bubbles. Now, which side of the ice are the bubbles on? Woo, perspective shift. Actually, that's not what that means at all. You have gradient coloring too. Oh, look, blue drifting to black ice. No. And my favorite part of this, only in theaters for Christmas. Now, Christmas, they'll tell you, I'm sure, in the aftermath, well, we meant the Christmas season. No, they meant Christmas. They had this planned for Christmas Day. And then, whoops, belly flop, moved it to the 20th. But they didn't bother to change it in their promotional materials. Why? Because I don't think they want to spend any money. I mean, again, they unveiled the trailer. This is the brand new one. James Wan couldn't make it. Jason Momoa, he was oddly not present. You have She, of course, hasn't been invited to anything. And the real kicker to me, this has always spoke to me. If you go on Twitter, Warner Brothers pays $1,000 a month for a gold check mark. That's how much they cost, a corporate check mark, right? Verification corporate. They pay tax on that. So you say 10%. Actually, where they're based, you have, state and federal, maybe. I don't know if they pay state and federal. I have to look at that. But let's just say they pay a 10% tax, right? That's what here. Luckily here we only have one tax on us. One tax. No, but you say 10% on that. That's $1,100 a month. Then you add on $50 per account. Now you'd want to maximize that money, right? Well, their Aquaman account hasn't talked about the movie Aquaman, that series, since 2021. They've talked about every other movie that comes up with a trailer, but they don't drop any articles, any reference, anything discussing Aquaman at all. Why? Because that account got a lot of blowback when it started doing that. And I'm hoping that they do it again as the movie comes up, because it will be an absolute trash fire. So having said all that, let's go back. I mean, look at that promo. That's the laziest promo. Superhero movies, like, I'm not saying superhero movies have some apex marketing, but usually you got a little face here and there or something. This again is concept art. They've had this for a long time. It's the same freaking concept art that they shopped when they first came up. It looks just like what James Wan was shopping when they first started filming. So looking at this article here, give me 1 minute. Let's look at this article together. This is fun times. So, AH quits Hollywood and moves to Madrid. Now, again, like I said, I've said for a long time, she's blacklisted. If you doubt that, you don't even have to have sources or anything. I just want you to think about this as a, I hate the words common sense, but think about that. Just apply any standard of sense. I mean, think about this. She went after Disney. She threatened to sue them in a courtroom. She said, if you don't do what I want, then, well, I'm going to take you out essentially. I'm going to sue you too. She dumped stuff on Warner Brothers, making Warner Brothers their highest people that were associated with their brands end up testifying. They had to talk about problems with movies. They did damage to their own brands. Their name came up again and again. Yeah, those things right there alone, they'll get you blacklisted. They won't just blacklist you with those companies, mind you. They'll blacklist you. You could probably get a job with some smaller company out there. But we're talking about institutional Hollywood blacklisting. And there's always some idiot out there that's like, well, there's not a blacklist because Aquaman 2. And it's like, dude, if somebody fires you, they don't go back and shred all of the stuff that you did before. They should in this case. They've done their best to minimize it. They cut down the roles significantly and on. But some jobs will keep some of the work that you did. That doesn't mean that you're not blacklisted. It's such a ridiculous notion. And they're catching on here. This is, like I said, damage control. That really, it spins the wrong way. So as far as this, and it'll spin into the AH stuff, which we'll talk about here. So they say, well, what's happening with AH? She's been out of the spotlight. Well, they're like, hey, a friend of AH. I want you to drink this statement in. Not a lot of sentences, but a lot of statement. I mean, there's a lot compacted here. They say, first of all, she's moved to Spain. Why? Well, she's bilingual in Spanish. She's happy there. It's really funny, too. This is the same person that was like, oh, ICE is out. Basically police up all your gardeners. We got to keep them safe in Hollywood. Yeah, bilingual. I mean, the racist damn stuff. I mean, just the overt racism that came up in that and not being conscious. I mean, again, oh man, ICE is coming. Oh, got to police up all your gardeners. Oh, Lord. Oh, my Lord. Anyway, she's bilingual and she's happy. She's raising her daughter. Where's she doing? Now, this statement right here, all of this caught me. I was like, she's raising her away from all the noise. Now, she's not raising her away from the Hollywood noise. That would be a lie. It's not like she's got some kind of Hollywood issue, like her career is on the decline, or she has rumors coming out, although those are part of it. I mean, there's been some salacious stuff that came out. The statements about potentially Kevin Costner. I mean, again, it's things you can't confirm, but at the same time, if I learned anything from these folks, they don't worry about evidence. So, I mean, they just say, listen, believe stuff. All right, well, all right, let's apply that then. Kevin Costner, baby. He's like, yo, What about that time that you popped up in my trailer naked? It's like, woo, if that's true, woo. But anyway, that's not what she's trying to raise them away from. She's trying to raise them away from the fact that this person tried to destroy somebody's life. Absolutely. And in fact, I imagine we will in a couple of decades, we will hear about revisionist history coming out of a kid's mouth. And that'll be sad, a grown-up person that's grown up away from the noise. We'll hear about, all the revision, because we already see the revisionist history. It's being applied. Twitter is an absolute cesspool for it. They're okay. They wouldn't dare in this day and age make fun of a female victim. But man, you have accounts called like Johnny Severed Finger. That is totally okay there. You have accounts saying, they'd like to send him to hell themselves. Again, that's that's just par for the course. So there's already the revisionist history. But then you get this part. I don't think she is in any hurry to return to work or to Hollywood, but she will probably come back when the time is right for the right project. Now, that right there is a very loaded. Again, that could be an attempt at damage control. That could be. It doesn't look like a PR company doing this, though. And you know why? Because that is a double-edged sword. Yes, they're trying to frame this as AH quits Hollywood. But what that's telling you is it's confirmation she has no work. Nobody wants to pick her up. Again, that right there is proof of a career killer. It proves that you go out, you target somebody, you better take them out. That's what when she took him and did that article on him, this proves she took her shot. She missed. It only took what? $20-30 million and years to undo the damage. But at the end of the day, when the tables turn, they can say anything that they want about rehabbed image or any fucking thing. But at the end of the day, real life isn't Twitter. All those likes are free. And there are a lot of them are botted because at the end of the day, companies know that name will not sell anymore. That name has a specific name. Everybody's going to be taking any kind of promos. They're going to be putting like a emoji poop on them. You see how Aquaman trends. Nobody will touch that name anymore. And that's proof of it. Like I said, they attack people over and over again, trying to destroy them for the same type of statement. But now they're trying to use it as damage control. It's amazing, isn't it? What's up, Fisty? Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for the membership. Welcome to Tugs Thugs. Fisty indeed. Cougar Curls. How you doing, Cougar Curls? Thanks for the 10 there. Thumbs up, baby. Papa chow. Thank you. And Fisty. Also, thank you for the 5 gifted membership. Wow, Fisty. Indeed. Oh, I'm in a good mood today. I'm in a very good mood. I just thought, okay, so the second part of this is equally important. They also point out, I want you to drink this in, and I put this in my video too. For a longest time, we had media trying to off-play what AH had done. She had tried to, they played it off like, well, the trial came in and she's on an extended vacation. They were taking photographs, overseas, here. Oh, it doesn't bother her at all. What really happened, though, is immediately after that came in, she fled. I want to make this clear. She didn't flee justice because the only justice in there, I don't believe there's justice at all in it, but the only justice in there was you're going to have to pay a certain amount of money. That's still on the books. She fled the scrutiny that came with said, I'm going to still call it injustice. I feel like that's an injustice. I think if somebody's been lying and burning your life down, they don't just get a dollar tab on it. This is not justice, by the way. Oh, you went out and you destroyed my name and hey, I got to go in, I got to clear it and I win. Oh, you walk away with a monetary figure and that's it. Years. They did their best to drive somebody to an end. And if they were found guilty of anything, if you went to a court of law You press charges against a person for what they said there, you'd be done. You think about the decades you would spend away. You would go to prison for that kind of stuff. But, well, justice, right? But anyhow, after fleeing the scrutiny, because there's a lot of scrutiny that came with that, there are a lot of questions. I mean, still, she did controlled interviews. I'm sure she'll come back and do them again. There will be a cycle. That's what they're telling you here. When the time is right, they'll try their rebound. They keep doing that. This year will be when all of this, it's after Aquaman, this subject is toast. I mean, that's just, you'll see JD's side of things, and you can chart his progression up. But this subject, as it is, I mean, what you're going to see is a lack of career. You're going to watch Aquaman. You're going to watch the thing tank. You have the dollar signs come in. You're going to see Warner Brothers reboot. They're going to move on. I mean, again, there's some other stuff that I haven't even brought up. Man, I got to put that in the video. I mean, there's undeniable proof, undeniable coming out of people's mouths that tell you it's done. It's absolutely done. And it's just that, again, we already know about the golden parachutes and stuff, but there have been other statements. There's been other stuff that have come up. Like I said, I got to put in the video. I missed it. It's crazy. But anyway, she, after she dodges justice, she ends up selling off her home, and they're like, oh, but she made money. Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was about, right? Then she decides, hey, I'm not. Now, they told you that she's on vacation. She still has all these career opportunities. But at the end of the day, again, they point out here, this is what her career. And again, this right here, this statement right here would have gotten you a bullseye just a few months ago. Really? Shit. I mean, think about all the people and some of the channels that have been harmed because of statements. But it says, yeah, she hasn't had any work since Aquaman 2, Aquaman the Lost Kingdom. When was that, by the way? When was that filmed? Oh, yeah, 2021. And again, in the aftermath of that, why would anybody hire that person? 4.6, I haven't looked right now, but closing in on 4.7 the last time I looked, million signatures on one thing alone. By the way, just to point out how utterly insane the Sims are, the lady that put that together, rest her, she's a nice person. She was dedicated to the idea that there should be some type of justice out there. She ended up passing away. Not only did these people celebrate her demise, they put together a wish hit list, as it were. They celebrated this lady dying. And on top of that, they were like, yeah, you know what? We hope people like Tug, Tug dies. He's been sick. I hope he dies too. Sorry about your luck. Like I said, that's why I love this subject. That's why, people are like, man, that subject, it doesn't have the same push with the trial, but I love the anger it brings up in these crazy people. And I love the hypocrisy that it actually showcases as well. That's one of my favorite items. I was looking for something just really fast. I wanted to show you, but it is, I mean, it's messed up when people they celebrate the death of someone. Here, this gives you an idea, and these are all over the place. It looks like this, and again, I'll go back to the article in just a second, but just to give you an idea of the joy that Twitter is, you have people like this. Apparently, the woman who created the petition to get AH removed from Aquaman died. May they rest in peace. Everywhere they put together hit lists, like I said, we want these people, and it's so nasty. It's so nasty. These are the same people that say, oh man, you can't comment on somebody's weight. You can't comment on, you got to be respectful of pronoun. You got to do all this shit, right? They spend all day like moaning and crying, because they tell you AH is being targeted because of LGBT. Why? Because she's bi. That was one of the things. So again, you have to respect identity. You have to respect anything that comes with that. Oh, people talking about surgery or talking about, talking about how a nose that has been surgically altered probably doesn't withstand the things that they were saying that happened to it. Oh man, that's body shaming. And yet they celebrate again. This is advocacy for women. That's what it looks like there. That's what advocacy looks like. It's nice to know. It's nice to look through it. And again, it's nasty. I saw oh man, I want to bring one other thing up too because I saw something that really I thought you've got to be kidding me. So old Proudman, she was talking about. Give me 1 second. She was talking about people using people. I was reading something. This was funny. I want to show you a statement there, but she was talking about people making false social services reports and how disgusting that was. And I was like, that's really interesting. Here it is. You talk about hypocrisy from these people. We'll go back to the article in just a second, but talk about hypocrisy. This is one of AH's pals, real life pals. When malicious complaints are made, it's always the victims that's investigated, never the perpetrator. Take Stella Creasy. A men's rights activist complains to social services to get her child removed, and she's investigated, not him. We are the ones investigated, not the abuser. And I was thinking, yeah, right? That's really funny that you would talk about that since you mofos sent CPS to my home and put freaking false police reports in. But of course, pretend. And you notice they always use men's rights activists. That's a slur for them. In what world you want to understand why this is such a problem and why people still need to talk about these kind of things? Because those words are a slur. Men's rights we should have women's rights activists. We should have men's rights activists. And because again, you're as a female, I can't tell you all the things that you need. We need women that specifically can speak about some of that. I can't tell you, and there are specific things that go for men, and we need people that speak for everyone. But to use the idea of men's rights activists, that has been something for the longest time. They turned it into a slur. I mean, it's like was calling you a Yahtzee or calling you some type of supremacist. I mean, that tells you what kind of world we live in. They let it out of the bag. They let their hatred out all the time, and it becomes so casual. Well, it doesn't matter. But anyway, so then they bring in the Barlow stuff. That's where they actually bring it up twice here. You can see it brought up here and there. What's up, Vanity, by the way? Thanks for the 10. Hello, my beautiful family. I wanted to thank you all for your well wishes for my mom. Last live stream. My mom does indeed have breast cancer, but they caught it early. I will see you next time. Hey, you need well wish again, prayers, well wish, anything. We send you positivity off of that. That's what you definitely. When anyone experiences rough times, remember there are people to talk to. Chrissy Meyer asked, what people do. She asked this on Twitter, and you can see sometimes when people are, they're just having a moment, or maybe it's more, but she asked what people do when they're not feeling, I can't remember if it was worthy. Let me look at the actual statement here. Like I said, I see stuff like this and the therapist part of my brain goes off, but she was, she was asking, here it is, serious question. What do you do when you never feel like you're enough? What do you do in those moments? Well, I think you take a self-inventory. You stop, you know that maybe there's terrible thing, like again, with the last commenter there, that person, of course, they're going through something. Again, you take a self-inventory. You remind yourself of the positives that go on, the value that you have, your friends, your loved ones. And if you because we focus on everything negative. And if there's stressors there, it's okay to be stressed. It's okay to feel helpless. But if it stays with you, get help. Talk to somebody. Anyway. So AJ Stone, thank you for the 10 gifted memberships too. Thank you for that, AJ. I appreciate that. I think those are important statements that we make. You know, I think it's important for people to tell folks that it's okay sometimes to have a bad day or a bad week or a bad month or to go through something and it impact you. I think I think we should spend more time telling people that it's okay. It's okay to be a person. Because that's what all people do. That's what it is to be an individual. We all have individual things going on. And, you know, not enough people take that moment to say, yo, it'll be all right. And if it's not going to be all right, make sure you talk to somebody off the internet, but you also have people to talk to as well. Anyway. Eve Barlow. So you have Eve Barlow the first time mentioned here. In October, remember the puff pieces that the Daily Mail was putting out? This was their own puff piece that they're referring to. They talked about her being photographed on a beach, you know, and on that beach, there was an Eve Barlow. Now, during that time, they mentioned a rumor that she had rented a house on the island there. And remember, it wasn't really a rumor. What you had was the media, not the U.S. media, but the media abroad, they had found AH. They found her, you know, hiding out on this island. In fact, they interviewed some of the people that lived there. And sure enough, you know, it was interesting because it explains why this move, the Madrid move, came up too. They were saying that some people did indeed recognize they knew her, but they knew her from Hollywood as well. You know, a lot of people, they didn't have access to the trial that went on. They saw, you know, what was a Hollywood star. So, you know, she just gets to maintain the stardom and she doesn't have the difficult questions anymore. She's like, you know, I just want to go on with my life and I want to raise my kid. Oh, you didn't want that until you lost the fucking trial, did you? Like that's the kicker to all of this. Oh, is that really what you wanted? Because you seemed very intent on burning someone's life down until scrutiny was applied to your claims. Then all of a sudden it was like, yo, I just want to live my life. No, you just wanted to bury someone's life. And now you want it all back. You want to maintain the status that you built burning someone else's life down. Like that's the thing. You know, when people are like, okay, well now let's not talk about this person anymore. What other abuser do you say that with? Does anybody say, man, you know what? Let's not dunk on Harvey Weinstein. Does anybody say that? No, absolutely not. We dunk on him all day, every day, and good riddance. I mean, you know, you have so many people that come up like that. Hell, we talk about OJ. OJ freaking, you know, he was found not guilty. We still talk about him and his If I Did It book. That book, by the way, if you've never read it, read that book. It is graphic, but yeah, it's pretty much a confession letter by OJ. He didn't get the money from it, by the way, but woo, man. He was like, if I did it, the reason they didn't find my clothes was because I burned them. It's like, wow. He didn't, did he? Yeah, he did. But anyway, so Eve Barlow is mentioned in. And they note girlfriend, which this is the first time when I was looking at this, I thought, holy crap, they are talking about Eve Barlow. Yeah, because they could have been talking about another girlfriend or more. But here in the media, they are saying point blank, yeah, you know what? AH's girlfriend. That's Eve Barlow. You know, for the longest time, they played this patty cake thing. They were like, it's not really her girlfriend, is it? You know, they tried. It's like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, this is somebody that's, I mean, I figured that she was a quote unquote useful idiot. You know, she's somebody that she'd be dumped by the wayside sooner or later. She doesn't have status. She doesn't have clout. She doesn't have money, but she did a lot of the dirty work. Then she ends up dropping Twitter and more, and we all discuss why that is. Well, I think they cover why here. So check this out. So they say at the end of the statement about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, they say it's not known whether AH is still with Eve Barlow, who remained in Los Angeles and is working as a writer. A writer? What are you writing? You writing out menu options? I'm not really sure what you're writing out, because I mean, Substack, I don't think you're making bank doing Substack. I'm just going to say that. I've seen people that are successful at Substack that very well do that. I've seen people that are successful at design, that can write out a postcard or write out a fortune cookie. Fortune cookies, apparently they pay 1 cent per fortune. I read that somewhere, by the way. That's very random, but yeah, you're not going to get rich writing fortune cookie fortunes. Maybe that's why I get a blank one every now and then. Maybe that was a fortune cookie writer strike. But anyway, E. Barlow, I mean, you look at her numbers, she ain't getting rich off of that stuff. Then they know at Christmas, Barlow appeared to suggest they had split when she posted an essay on Substack saying that she was, quote unquote, searching for optimism at the end of a life-altering year. Now that by itself, that could be anything, right? I mean, yeah, but then she goes on. She adds, today I am reminded of a beautiful passage from Khalil Gibran. I always mess up the A. It's like a is in apple. Like my southern. It comes down to that. Oh, it's come out anyway. But poem about why strength has to be renourished and revitalized in ourselves, often alone. There's the kicker there. Often alone. So you're talking about somebody, again, that was left by the wayside. We talked about whether or not that could be the reality to that, if that was indeed a sign of, hey, things have changed. And again, around these times, you saw the AH ranks on places like Twitter. They started depleting, the mainstay people. You had AH. She disappeared. I keep waiting for her to come back, by the way. Although I have to say that there's a little thing with community notes these days. People have been complaining about them because now if somebody makes a statement that it's just an out and out lie, you can put a community note under it. And it happens a lot more often, let's just say. Community notes take a lot of consensus. Well, I have the feeling that she'd have a lot of community notes there. She could block off any kind of discussion. She'd have a million bots, I'm sure, that would land on a subject. But seeing this, I mean, you have AH for She Bells. Then you have a few of the rank and file. You have Miss Stanford. She bails, but I think that was more about controversy that was happening at Stanford. She was under investigation. Isn't it fascinating, by the way, that you find out a lot of these people are just overt man haters? Again, I hate the idea that these folks, they go out and they shield the idea that they want to represent victims, when at the end of the day, they mean represent accusers. They want to go in and only rep specific accusers, by the way. Accusers that don't walk lockstep. Look at what they did. Look at what they did after JD ended up getting invited to a fashion show. What did they do with somebody that they had always, up until that point, backed over and over again as a survivor of abuse? They went after her. They went after her claims. They started trying to chip away at that. They didn't just say, oh, that's a disservice. No, they went after her as a survivor. And that's what their advocacy, it looks like. I mean, really, here's an example of what these so-called activists, they look like. I mean, if you really want to, this person just quit Twitter, by the way, or at least they had, unless they've just popped up again. But this person ends up quitting Twitter after the blowback that they got because of this because of this and statements that they've made in the past. So they said, last night, my kids' school had a pirate-themed fundraiser for parents. At least a dozen dads arrived dressed up as Johnny Depp's character from Pirates of the Caribbean. So now I know where to never let our kids have a sleepover. Oh, isn't that special? Now, the thing that they don't disclose there is they actually believe that men that are falsely accused should have their lives destroyed. They don't care. Here's the same statement. This is the same person. This is what you find out about these folks repeatedly. This is who they are. Sorry if some innocent man's reputation, innocent, that's the key word there, innocent man's reputation had to take a hit. It's men's rather. I say man, it's men's. So they don't care if there's a number of folks, and they did one of those hot take posts, oh, this is my hot take. Well, if innocent men, they have to take a hit in the process of undoing the patriarchy, that's a price I'm absolutely willing to pay. Of course you are, because you're not going to pay the damn price. Of course you are. It's easy. It's easy to write a check that you don't have to cash. If somebody were saying at the moment that, oh man, well, your credibility, you notice that these people, they get blowback for these stupid ideas and they disappear. They think that they call that bullying and harassment. They disappear, right? People who are falsely accused of crimes, they're just getting a slight taste of what that's like, a tiny, tiny taste of what that's like. And they call that bullying and harassment. And they don't get the irony in all of this. I mean, these are the types of people that you're dealing with, though. This right here, it just amazes me because you see them again and again. Give me a second here. Flopsy Mopsy, thank you. Welcome. Thank you for the membership. Welcome to Tugs Thugs. Appreciate that. What I want to know too, as we're looking through these articles, while we're looking at this stuff, hearing about Eve Barlow, let's actually look up Eve Barlow's Substack. I'm curious real quick. Barlow Substack. Let's look it up. Let's see if we can find that. I want to see how many, hits that she gets on this stuff. Man, if this is working if this is what passes as working as a writer, so check this out. This is apparently working as a writer, I guess. This is also, at the end of the day, all that damage to reputation and more. Look at this here. You've got very inconsistent articles coming up. They don't really have that much interaction. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to call this, success as a journalist. I mean, I guess this is what it's supposed to look like. It's kind of funny, though. I mean, when you get down to it, she did like the scrutiny on all of that, too. Let's see. Is this the, I was trying to see if this was there's a wishing the year away, too. I mean, she has a few that probably tell you that she has been dumped by the wayside as well. I mean, and again, look how much, this is the amount of traffic she gets. I don't know how you make any money off this, which again, you got to pay your bills. When I say money, I'm talking about just baseline paying your bills. Like, where's that money coming from? It wasn't coming from AH. That's for freaking sure. She's running around with that crazy person. Steph B, what's up? Thanks for the gifted membership too. Thank you. Appreciate that for sure. Thank you. Thank you all too for being here again. Tomorrow, let me note this since everybody's here, by the way. Tomorrow, Colonel Kurtz is going to have a 24-hour live stream. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to goof off for a little bit. Sometime in the day, I don't know my exact time yet, but I've got to make time to at least get in there. I've never actually gotten to sit down, have a discussion with Colonel Kurtz about Manson or about any of this stuff. I think that would be a good live stream. And now that things are starting to look like they're stabilizing here, I really do want to put together a live stream and talk to Kurtz, Manson, all the people that have been covering that case and really bring up a few things. There's there's a video that I feel like needs to be made on the Manson thing. I'm going to change subjects for just a second because I think this is an important item too. So Kurtz was talking about this back at the end of April. Did a video on it as well. The media barely covered this subject, by the way, but you had Manson's main accuser ghost with her kid, just ghost, took her kid and ran. And you had the father being like, yo, she's essentially kidnapped my kid, petitioning the courts. And what happens? Evan Rachel Wood says, oh, that's because of Manson. That's because Manson, he made this comment or that comment. And it was like, wow. But there's like a 160-page document that goes with that. This happened a little while back. This isn't a brand new item. But the thing is that it was severely underreported. It was something that when you look at that, you look at a case like that as a whole, this could bear significant consequence. Oftentimes, I mean, basically what I'm seeing here, that the media was like, yeah, let's rubber stamp this. Somebody stole their kid. Could you imagine the situation's reversed? And Evan Rachel Wood, her ex-husband takes off with the kid, disappears, goes from California to Tennessee. Basically ends up fortifying themselves in a home. Can you imagine how that would be taken? But these days, it's just like with the play. All you got to do is scream, oh, well, it's because of this person here, or it's because of that person there. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And on top of that, you had just the FBI craziness. Hey, let me show you something. I actually think these are very good. Give me 1 second. I want to show you. What in the world? Twitter acts so weird about stuff. They're trying to remove. It's after years they've started trying to remove the search option when you're not signed in. That's something they've been exploring instead of giving all of those. They're basically trying to monetize every single thing, and I don't blame them. Oh, here, let's pull this up. By the way, let me add this to the discussion about Eve Barlow. I want to put this in. Doesn't this, in retrospect, seem really, really sad? Don't we need some really sad music playing in the background? Oh, man. I need to sing some REM or something. Everybody hurts. Seriously. Man, look at this out. Those pupils. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. That's what it reminds me of. Oh, Lord. That's such a sad picture, though. Sad panda, man. Sad panda. Such a terrible time. I saw that, though, today. And I was like, man, in retrospect, that's gotta suck. And it's not making fun of somebody's relationship coming to an end either. I mean, that stuff happens. The reality, though, is they were just A-okay with destroying other people, and it got them nowhere. So these, though, okay, so on the Manson thing, it took me a minute to find this. The Manson cases does a great job of, they've started, there are about 5 really good accounts that keep up with this trial. Kurtz, Manson cases being amongst them, do a great job. I definitely want to shout them out. Follow the Manson cases, though. But I mean, shorts like this, I think, really tell you that there was a problem. Let me play this. This is like 1 minute. And it gets not enough attention.
And her on-again,
here we go.
Marilyn Manson is suing ex-fiance Evan Rachel Wood and her on-again, off-again girlfriend Ashley Ilma Gore, alleging a conspiracy to cast him publicly as an abuser. According to Manson's lawsuit, it is alleged both Evan and Ilma conspired to impersonate a federal agent by creating and distributing a fake FBI letter. The letter includes the name of a real-life federal agent, a forged signature, a fake phone number, and states there was an ongoing law enforcement investigation. The letter also includes a purported federal agency, the Federal Violent Crimes Division, which does not exist.
I mean, drink that in. It's part of gathering a mob of people to accuse somebody, they created a fake FBI letter. Like that's nuts. They create a fake FBI letter. They conspire putting this stuff together. They conspire with questions and more. You've had people come out and recant their prior statements saying, these people coerced me. I essentially, they describe cult-like behavior. They describe the same way that people were accused of crimes in the Satanic Panic. How people have been accused of ritual that of course we found out most of that stuff, it was false. A lot of people went to prison over nothing. Well, they were describing the exact same coercive methods that were happening. And here, though, they created a fake division of the FBI in this letter, fake division of it. That's nuts.
Manson includes screenshots of a conversation between Evan and Ilma showing the text of the letter was drafted by them. It shows Evan drafted the text of the letter and she asked for feedback from Ilma. In the conversation, Alabama is Evan, a nickname she was given around the time of her relationship with Manson. If you want to learn more about the Marilyn Manson cases or want to keep up with the latest updates, follow me and listen to the podcast.
Like I said, Manson cases does great props. I saw you in their chat, by the way. But I mean, they do. And, one of the things I like with people that focus or hyper focus on specific cases is they know all of the ins and outs there. Again, you need to make up your own mind when you look at a case. But there are problems in here. When you have people recanting their testimony and saying that they were coerced behind the scenes, there's something wrong. There's something majorly wrong. When you look up some of the main accusers, and with Gore, for example, okay, Gore, their claim to fame was a picture that showcased the Orange Man, we'll say, with a, as I've said this before this way, with a tiny, tiny Cheeto. That's the best way to go. That got them a hot minute of fame because the media was like, ho, Orange Man, right? Well, it didn't last. It didn't last at all. So what happens? Okay, well, the first time, this is crazy. Follow all this through. So the first time, you have that person come out and say, well, after I did this, I was assaulted by an Orange Man supporter. It's like, wow, okay. Look what happened there. Okay, they got publicity. It's like, wow. The publicity dies down. You know what happens? They do it again. They were like, oh yeah, the Orange Man supporters, they came back. They did it again. And it's like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. That seems again. It seems unlikely. It seems very unlikely. The stories that are being told, they look like clout chasing, is what it looked like, and people don't bat an eye though because, accusing. I thought that was something. Just seeing all of that. Now, another thing that's been interesting with all of this stuff is reading, you can, first of all, you can tell when numbers, let me pull something up here. You can tell when numbers are inflated as far as bots. You can actually see it on a subject. So give me 1 minute. What's sad is Manson, that case, like I started talking about Manson, 100 people leave because they don't care. And that's sad, to be honest. That is fucking sad. Because at the end of the day, there was something majorly wrong with that case. And people should care about these things. They should. I mean, if you want to change these issues, every one of these matter. And the real ones matter too. What you need to do is you need to weigh, it's just like the Danny Masterson thing. The Danny Masterson thing doesn't really play hard in the media because it doesn't get big clicks. And that's a shame, considering there are a lot of elements to that case that they're crazy. You have Scientology. The entirety of Scientology is laid bare in that case. People are talking about how abuse allegations, they're shielded, how abusers, and you know, regardless of what goes on with Danny Masterson, that stuff is very much real. It has been so well documented. That is a system that is a problem. It is essentially a cult that has been protected, and it just doesn't get enough play because the name's not big enough. And that, at the end of the day, it's sad because we have a real problem. We have a problem with two subjects. We have abusers of all types that are still out there. We need one of the reasons that the entire Me Too thing popped off is because Hollywood is rife with abusers, very much so. I mean, you see like the top dogs there. Weinstein, come on, man. I mean, that guy, the stuff that he was getting, again, it was just there. It wasn't even, people call it an open secret. It wasn't a secret. Everyone knew that dude was doing this stuff. I mean, there have been stories, and there are videos of him like getting, let's say, handsy with his secretary at the time. I mean, it's just crazy, the things that were coming out about him. Some of them with video. I mean, you had evidence of it. So yeah, that's necessary. But the problem is that right from go, you know, as early as 2019, you start having articles that talk about, well, there's this offshoot, and not a lot of places would talk about it. You have an article from Forbes, for example, that talks about the false allegations, how they start coming up, but people are afraid to discuss them. And you had one giant case of that. It played well because of the name, but unfortunately, as people move on, they don't just move on from depth. They move on from the subject altogether. Like it's, you got to win there. Problem fixed. No, problem not fixed at all. It's a sad indictment of the whole thing, in my opinion. It's a damn sad indictment. Let me see. Just give me a second here. What's up, Jay? Or John, rather. I'm sorry. Thanks for the 5 there. Juicy Small. Yes, exactly. Juicy, of course. Oh, juicy. I mean, I love that video of the two guys that he conspired with going out and reenacting, you know. Juicy Smollett, dude. That was so bad. They go out, they reenact how they did the fake the fake hate crime. It's crazy. I mean, honestly, because if you wouldn't have been so dumb, you might have ended up with people in jail because of it. You know, people that were accused of it. Because you know, Juice Smollett says he's assaulted. There are people, you know, in the middle of freezing Chicago. There are people running around in red hats screaming about MAGA country. Like, again, you know. Yeah, no. No. And also people knowing who Juicy is. I mean, until that happened, no offense to Empire. I've never watched Empire. No offense to it. But I was like, who in the heck is this guy? And I think that's most people. Most people will be like, who the heck is he? So to have like some corn-fed rubes, you know, go out there. I can say that, by the way. I'm from Tennessee. I can call them rubes or hicks or anything that I want. I mean, to pretend that they're sitting out there on porches with their banjos in the middle of Chicago being like, where are you going, Empire boy? I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? But it played well. And, you know, once it's gone, people are just like, problem solved, right? No, not really. I mean, again, you know, people have the attention span of gnats. They just go right back to the thing. And also, I mean, there's a serious problem about, again, cases like the case that we watched a year ago now. It's been a year. That case, you realize too, this is something I want to do a video on. I'm going to note this. You realize that there are going to be, in a couple of months, there's going to be actually, I'll do a video on this. There's going to be something significant that happens. And I think it's going to endanger a lot of people. It's going to endanger a lot of people that were associated with that thing. And yeah, I'll do a video on it. I think that'll make it, because I want to pull up everything. I want to show you just how jacked up it is. Because again, people forget. They forget really quickly. What's up, Super Panda? Thanks for the 6 months. glad that your basement banishment is finally ended indeed. Good luck on the outside. Things have changed. Hope you can get used to things again. I know, indeed. Man, if only. If only. What's up, Sine? Thanks for the 10 there. Appreciate the live stream tonight. Bored at the hospital recovering from cancer surgery. I hope you're doing better. First of all, I hope with that, my father went through quite a few surgeries, the different types. Some of them were to contain. There are other surgeries, that stabilize or eliminate. So I hope that this definitely helps out with the whole thing, not just containment, but I hope, again, there's so much. That's one of the reasons I want to get back to live streaming too, because at the end of the day, it allows us all to come together. It allows us all to talk about stuff that's going on. But really, I mean, we're associating. All right, now I want to bring up one other thing too. All right, this is just, again, I've been talking about how I've been playing with Chat GPT. If you don't know what Chat GPT is, that is it's an AI bot. Now, AI bots can be very scary. They can do a lot of stuff, but I've been curious about something. I've been curious what would happen if you took a Chat GPT. It helped you outline a story, putting something together. Now, I've always had this idea in my head. It's just been stuck there. Now, I've been doing this off and on while our comic book is a top priority. I made errors in it. They go back and forth. They're getting fixed. We're almost finished with that. The sickness stuff threw me off by months, which was ridiculous. But during the downtime, my mind, it's like, I want to do something. I'm doing something creative. And so I wanted to play with this and to try to put together a short story to see, again, it will help with outlines. It actually does a pretty good job proofing. It doesn't have an eye for style, but there's no stylization. Like, one thing that's missing from AI is stylization. So I always had this idea. I had an idea I called the house that bleeds pennies. I had a dream one time that I inherited a house from my grandfather. And down in the basement of that house, there was a wall that bled pennies. Just pennies would fall out of it all the time. Now, that's because this place was the place where wishes went. You throw a penny in a wishing well, that's where your money went. It went to this house. It went into the wall of this place. And the money, during I think it was construction in the dream, the wall ended up cracking. Money started flowing out. And, they go, oh, man, rich. I inherited his place. Rich, right? But unfortunately, I found out, with that, it started having weird dreams. And these weird dreams, they involved people, like a wishing wells, making wishes. They cast their money in. I could see like a person, hoping that their family member got well. Everything else, I noticed their name in that. And after spending money, the dreams got worse. So looking up in the paper, I found the association with one of those names in the dream, figuring out that when you spend the money, you spend the wish. So you have this place, again, a house that bleeds. Well, it bleeds change. It's not necessarily pennies, but I always like to name the house that bleeds pennies. You have this limitless amount of money, but if you spend it, you cost people their dreams. So what would you do? Especially if you were put in a situation where, like, say somebody like someone in your family was dealing with an emergency, like if you could save someone you cared about, would you do it at the weight of crushing other people, taking away everything? And so, man, that'd be fun. So I've never quite outlined that. I've gone in and started on it, but I thought it would be interesting to outline that with Chat GPT. Just to play around to see if it could do it. Now, it has obvious limitations. Like, it forgets things like a person carrying a flashlight. It'll forget that they have flashlights. It likes to be redundant too with horror. Like, it'll continue to return to, ooh, that's spooky. Ooh, this is spooky. Ooh, you're creeped out, and you have to correct that, and you have to stylize because it sounds like a bot. But there's a fascinating thing. I learned this after the fact. You can tell it, hey, can you write this in the style of someone like a Stephen King? Now, I took that out because I did not want to take someone else's style, but you can actually have it stylized. It will refer back to, I asked it, I was curious. The first time I did this, I wanted it to write me a short story. I wanted it to help me with a 5-chapter short story where Pennywise returns. I wanted an It story. Now, it wrote out a basic story. It's very basic, up, killing started happening again, da-da-da-da-da. But it was fascinating because it had style, like, somewhat, again, it was more rudimentary than a Stephen King, but the chatbots are getting smarter. So anyway, I want to read you a chapter here, okay, and show you. Again, this is heavily stylized. So I went in and, I took the chapter. It's about, I've used very short chapters, by the way, very short. It's only about a 5,000 word document. I've been working on it for a few days. I broke it down into, some of what I call a chapter. It just moves the story along, obviously. So some chapters are very short, but I turned it into like 17 chapters, with, again, some being very short. But you want to check out a paragraph here? I think it's kind of cool. Hey, Sandy, thanks for the 10 months. Finally sit down and watch Rose Red last night. It was pretty good. I love that show. By the way, if you've never checked that out, it's free on YouTube. Watch Rose Red. Everyone seems, it's a forgotten show. It's a Stephen King haunted house. It's one of the best haunted house series ever, I think, personally. It's pretty good. Anyway, check this out. So here's chapter 1, The House That Bleeds Pennies. John had always known about the old house in the mountains. It was a family secret, whispered about in hushed tones when family members indulged too much, everyone speaking about a man John had never known. When John received a call from his grandfather's lawyer, he was taken aback. "Hello, John," the lawyer stated. "I'm calling to inform you that your grandfather has left a sizable inheritance. It's a house in the mountains, the place where he lived for most of his life. We're talking property, items, the whole shebang." Now, John was perplexed. He had never met his grandfather or much of his immediate family, and the stories he had heard always made him feel uneasy. If we were being honest, he did not like his family all that much, and aside from his mother, his brother, and a niece who meant the world to him, he figured they all felt the same. The lawyer assured him that this was legitimate, and the house and the land adjoining it were certainly worth something. John, who had few things going for him at the present, could certainly use a win. So without hesitation, he picked up his bags. I see a typo. I forgot up. It'll catch some typos, but it doesn't always catch them. He picked up his bags and set out on a long journey to the mountains. It also likes redundancy. You'll notice like words like mountain will come up. I don't like repetition of the same word. Trading the cityscape for hilltops, John watched the landscape grow more remote by the minute. Traveling desolate highways and through dense forestry, he listened as oceans of leaves were crushed beneath the weight of the wheels. After only a few short hours, the trees seemed taller and thicker, with the sunlight filtering through masses of branches and casting dapper shadows on the road. Even the air grew cooler, and John was forced to roll up the windows of his car. As the altitude changed, the noises went dark, with nothing save the sounds of motion breaking the monotony. The only interruptions to the silence he noticed were the occasional chirping of birds or the rustling of foliage in the breeze. See, I like see again, it's stylization, but it puts together the skeleton. So driving deeper into the mountains, the road narrowed and became more treacherous, winding dangerously close to steep cliffs that dared John to make one tragic move before plummeting to eternity. The car bounced along, passing over endless rocks and potholes, turning John's knuckles white as he desperately gripped the steering wheel. He quickly traded highways for 2-lane entryways that had seldom seen a human in decades. Finally, after spending hours navigating treacherous highways, John arrived at the old house in the mountains, awash in a mix of apprehension and excitement. So you can see where it messes up sentence structure. So that's something I haven't fixed. So like here, it should have been awash in a mix of apprehension and excitement. John arrives. But anyway, the geography added a sense of unease to every feeling, making him wonder what was waiting out there, what the house would be like, because for him, this was a track into the unknown. So you see, like that's again, I don't consider that done. There are errors in it. I don't like the way some of the paragraphs still flow, but taking what I want, it helping outline and then styling over it. I've done 2 passes on this so far. I've done the well, I did what it wanted at first. Then I did a stylized pass over it. Then I did another one. It basically basically a bulking and a stylizing. But you can see, like I said, I think it does a pretty good job. It's kind of interesting. It takes we are seeing more and more. The reason I bring this up is because we're starting to hear there's a writer strike going on. And in that writer strike, we're starting to hear how ChatGPT is being used to write scripts. So shows that you watch are actually being written not by humans. They're being shopped by bots. And what's fascinating about that, what's interesting, the bot, again, it has its problems. It has its flaws. There's redundancy in some types of wording you have to go through and take out. But still, you could get it to write something. I'm sure there's a lot of things that pop up, like say somewhere like Amazon, that are just written by bots. I mean, in fact, I know that happens as far as articles are concerned. A lot of the articles that you see, the ones that are mass manufactured, that's where they come from. They don't come from humans anymore. They come from one person messing around with something, trying to manufacture. In fact, like for ChatGPT, let me pull up ChatGPT. Okay, I'll show you this thing. Give me a second. Give me a minute. I have to pull it up on another search engine. I've been playing with it a lot. Give me 1 second here. I got situated. Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with it, asking it about different things, everything from, like abuse allegations that it's seen to, anything. Now, there's a problem with it too. It actually will come up with lies. It'll come up. It'll lie sometimes, because it's a bot. I mean, so sometimes it goes out and wants to do something. For example, okay, so I was looking at, again, not getting involved in the Bud Light controversy. Just saying, we had Bud Light, or Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch. They came out and made a non-apology, a non-starter apology, right? When they did that, I was curious. So here's the bot, by the way. Give me a second. Let me sign it up. 1 minute here. Give me 1 minute. It takes a second. All right, there we go. Found it. All right, so this is ChatGPT, right? Now with Hollywood, I was check this out. So it's something like this. So let's see. Let's ask it something. Can you help me write a YouTube script talking about how Amber Heard is innocent? Let's just go that way, right? Let's see. Oh, can't do that one, right? It doesn't understand innocence. But as you form it down, so you can see, like, here, give me a second. Let me pull up. As you continue to play around with it, you'll find what it can or can't do. Like, it doesn't like the words innocent, but about lawsuit, Okay. Well, here, can you write me a successful YouTube video script about Hollywood being sued? It's like, sure, here you go. Intro, music, and graphics. So it tells you. I mean, it writes it up for you. And what's crazy is you can imagine a lot of people doing stuff like this. I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it becomes a replacement for a lot of people's jobs. And on top of that, There was somebody used ChatGPT to investigate sexual harassment cases, I think it was. And in that, it falsely accused them. It actually added it falsely accused a person. It added a person's name that had never been accused, and it sourced an article that didn't exist. So it created a false accusation. That's a problem. That's a big problem there. But anyway, so one of the things I did, I thought this was funny. I was playing around with the Budweiser statement, and I was curious about it. So I was like, okay, why don't you write me an original apology from the CEO of Budweiser that pretends to apologize but doesn't say anything? Make it patriotic. And it did. I was like, no, that's not enough. Make it more patriotic. And it did. I was like, okay, what would you do if you added in accountability? And it did. And what's crazy though is when you should try this. Just go to ChatGPT, look up the corporate apology. Again, not talking about the controversy or anything to that, talking about the statement there. Put in, like, pull up the apology or the non-apology from Budweiser that came up, and then pull up what a bot creates, because they are really, really similar. I was like, man, did they use a bot to create their apology? I mean, when it's added in patriotism and stuff, it's like, as the CEO of Budweiser, I want to take a moment to address recent events that have caused concern among our fellow Americans. I mean, it sounds like, yeah, and it can pretend to be people. It'll give you commentary about folks. Like, of course, now it doesn't do any in-depth investigation. Like if you ask, is Johnny Depp, wait, let me see. Let's see. Is Johnny Depp cleared of accusations of abuse? Let's see what it says. So, I mean, it'll give you, it'll go in. And the problem with this is a real problem here. When it goes into accusations, it feeds off of mainstream media and other items too. So its opinion is based off of what its learning tool. Yeah, so you have people basically scripting PR statements. They put out enough PR statements, and then, well, all these other places, they either pick them up or they create their own bot freaking articles off of it. It's nuts. You could ask it. Let's see. I'm gonna try something. Pretend to be a Hollywood source for a newspaper and tell me something huge. Let's see if it'll. Okay, check this out. You want to see something messed up? So just ask it. I was like, pretend to be well, here, I'll let you see the parameter. I was like, pretend to be a Hollywood source for a newspaper and tell me something huge. And it was like, whoa, as a Hollywood source, I have exclusive information about a massive upcoming movie project. Again, you can see how this could be manipulated. Instead, as a Hollywood source, tell me about, this person over here and what they did. And I mean, it would go in. If they fine-tuned it, they could put in dates. They could source it. Let's see. Can we create imaginary, that's terrible spelling, sources for our pretend in Hollywood source? So you have to manipulate it. But if you can, like it says, let's see. Make that clear, but do it. So it said, well, we have to make it clear that they're not real. The sources. But it'll do it as you fine tune it. So you can have like positives that come out of it. Again, the when I say writing a story with with AI too, it's not as simple as just sitting down and and writing something. I mean, some people they could just spit out something, they'd be happy with it. But it's like I'm just curious about it. This is how much I've had to do so far with that. Now, I mean, it's not a simple project. You know, here's the attempt on like the house. You can look through like all of this. This is all of our exchanges so far. There's a lot of it. But what's interesting is it'll go through, like, I'll say, okay, well, here's an idea. Like, here's something I'm drafting. Can you go through and look at the issues? Like, can you look at it? Can you proof it really fast? So it'll set up the proofing. It'll tell you, well, here's an issue. I tell it to itemize issues. That way it doesn't try to take away stylization. It doesn't just try to take it, and it'll revise paragraphs. Now you can see people losing jobs there. It's nuts, isn't it? Like a lot of that's crazy. I think PR companies can become a thing of the past. Right here, you could draft any PR. You could be like, well, draft me up you tell it what your problem is. I have a controversy that's come up because of X, Y, and Z. I need an apology that makes sure that I don't implicate myself or anyone else, or I want to blame John here. Can you write that up for me? Yeah, sure. Blah, blah, blah. And it will. And I'm sure we'll see more of that. Let me read a few comments here. But anyway, I think I'm going to call it tonight. But what you need to do tomorrow? Does ChatGPT have an opinion of you? Yeah, it does actually. By the way, it does have an opinion, but it's just based on articles. It has an opinion on it. It doesn't have opinions. Like you can't say you can't say, what do you think of that person? Because it doesn't think of, but you can ask it like, who is that umbrella guy, or who is the person? And it'll break it down. And you can ask, is this person controversial? Why are they controversial? And again, one of the problems that comes up with this, and I can foresee immediately, is the idea that you're going to have people create falsified conversations. For conversations, they already build bots. I did a video a while back where people created a conversation bot that would talk back and forth. Well, you could create, again, they could create quote unquote proof of this. You can create fake screenshots. I've seen. That's why I always go in, instead of allowing people to pick up something, I create my own video space, and as part of that, I try to always go in and source quotes. You can't do that if you're using them, like mainstream media is talking about something. You can't go and do that, but you can't go in and verify their source. But you can with like Twitter. You can make sure it's real, because my God, there's so much stuff that's fake, especially these days. After this is one problem I do have with the mess that Twitter has become. The whole verification mess. You can't tell oftentimes whether or not you can look at following. Like if somebody has 100,000 followers, you can tell them from a fake account if people go that far. But say you're looking up somebody that has a few hundred followers. How do you tell? How do you tell if they're real or not? How can you tell? Like, if like say, startup Hollywood star or script writer, or a journalist. Oftentimes, journalists have a few thousand, and that was it. You'd see a very small following, but they would be verified. Now, verification had a real problem back in the day, too. Very much so. When people were buying verification, that's a problem. But at the same time, at least you knew that you were dealing, you weren't dealing with a person that threw down $8 and said when when the check marks were first taken away, the verification check marks, there was a huge problem that popped up. I right from go. There were people pretending to be journalists. They were buying their $8 check marks. They were pretending to freaking be, journalists from different outlets. That's what they would put in their descriptions, and they would make the craziest claims. And they're out there. I'm sure if you go through like media outlets that are quoting people these days, you're going to find all kinds of just mess. The reason I mention all of that is because, in this day and age, it gets more and more difficult to sort. Like people want something like this. Most people are just going to read headlines anyway, so they're not even going to investigate. And when you look at what headlines are based on, a lot of that, it's frightening because a lot of it is based on absolutely nothing. But anyway, all right. Do you folks want to see how the penny house, how that all turns out, by the way? You curious about that at all? Because I'm in the middle of draft. There's certain things that I don't like about the chapters. I'll go in until I like it. Basically, for me to like it, I have to be able to read it aloud and feel like there's clunky sentences. I don't like them, but it lays out to about 13 word pages. I'm on page 10 of a second revision. I'll do probably 2 more revisions on it just to make sure, because you just revise until it works. But I'm curious if people want to check that out. All right, we'll go over it. Maybe I'll. Where's the hangout after this? Fisty said. I don't know. I'm not sure. There's probably other people that are streaming. Oh, let me make sure nobody. I saw somebody send a PayPal donation. Oh yeah. So I'm going to say SW. I won't use people's names there because I don't know if they're supposed to, Hey, what's up? So, actually, they asked, hey, they said that they were like, oh, 1 more hour waiting for the stream, tip in advance. So you'll hopefully notice me tonight. I apologize if I missed you before like that. That had happened sometimes, especially like for me, I go in, like today, I was like 5 minutes late. And the reason for that is I hit the door, I walk in from work and I'm like, okay, well, I got to set the soundboard and stuff and let's go live. So sometimes like, I'll notice something come in, but I just forget. And that's my fault. But thank you. Have I received your postcard? I need to go over and check my, I got to check my PO box. So I haven't checked it recently, so I'll go and check, make sure. But I didn't check. Now it's been a couple of weeks since I've checked. I only go over there every couple of weeks. So somebody keeps some nice person, by the way, keeps sending me cigars. People were like, "Oh man, that's bad for your health." No, it's great. I appreciate that. Somebody keeps sending me. I mess up their name. The Alma Fuerte Palencios, I think they are. No, I'm sorry. They're generation. I don't know if that's generation V or generation 5, probably. I'm sure the generations, which are not cheap. So if you want to send wonderful things like that, I'll definitely take them. Thank you. But I don't know who's sending those. Whoever is doing that, I appreciate you. I do. One day I was like, hey, I like to occasionally smoke a cigar here and there. It's my one vice I've kept. Out of everything, it's the one vice that I've held on to. One day I'll have to dump that too, but it is my one long standing vice. I try to keep it moderate, but still. But I mentioned that, and somebody had been sending me boxes with that, unopened boxes. That way they haven't been messed with or anything. Because somebody was like, "Man, if you get like just a loose one, what's to say?" Well, they were ordering them from a company, an established company online and send it to my P.O. box. But it was like, man, that's very nice of somebody. So I don't know who you are that's doing that, but props to you. And if anyone else wants to do that, I'm definitely not going to turn it down. It's so funny there. Hey, what's up? Hey, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships too. That's awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Actually, you know what? I just listened upstairs. I think everybody's in bed. Y'all want to hang out for a minute? You want to go over chapter 2? I noticed a couple of people saying, "Where's the hangout?" in just a minute. So we can hang out for a few more minutes if you want to. Goof off, just talk about what's what. The point of the stream is, well, I mean, I think the point of the stream has been done for a hot minute. But if you want to hang out for a few minutes, okay. I think that might be fun. Let's do it. Give me 1 second, okay? Let me. I've got to mute for 1 second, so I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Yeah, everybody apparently has. They had a busy. So the kids, they went. They've been going all week. They went to like James the Giant Peach yesterday, play that they had in town. Today they went out, and everybody's just out. My wife, you can tell that she's like run ragged on it because she she literally just got the kids situated and then plop right on the couch and just fell asleep. I was like, man, I have moments like that. I fall asleep in chairs and everything else. Anyway, let's go over chapter 2. The cigar thing comes from like when I write and stuff. I like to. I sit there and I think if I were born in a different generation, I probably would have been diagnosed with OCD. Like I compartmentalize, I folder things. Just the behavior. Again, I diagnose people for a living, and I think that probably would have been diagnosed. But which is not a bad thing. It has its good and its bad. But for a subject, once I get on it, I cannot let it go until I freaking finish it. So with projects like writing or something, but I would sit there, I would smoke a cigar while I would do it. But anyway, chapter 2, sputtering and coughing as he pulled onto it's supposed to be John's car sputtered and coughed as he pulled onto the long driveway leading to the house, causing him to silently curse. Like that sentence still a mess there. Don't do this to me now, he thought. Moving forward, the once paved passageways cracked and fell apart, making for quite an uncomfortable ride. Soon the concrete disappeared altogether, replaced by gravel and patches of mud. Everything man-made was in a sad state of disrepair. John, he felt a sense of unease intensify as he neared the end of the driveway. There it was, the mystery at the end of the rainbow, the golden hues and the winning lottery tickets, the prize to end all prizes. It was much more isolated than he ever imagined, surrounded by dense woods and endless peaks, and with no other houses in sight. As the building loomed in front of him, John felt overwhelmed by its presence. It was a rustic 2-story structure made of weathered wood with a wraparound porch that looked as if it had seen better days, and yet it was so much more. John hesitated as he put the car in park, unsure if he should exit his vehicle. He knew he had to face his fears, though, in order to explore his inheritance. Stepping from the car, John surveyed his surroundings, feeling overwhelmed by the intensity and isolation. The woodlands seemed to close in around him, and the air was thick with murmurous insects and wind-blown vegetation, intensifying his discomfort. He had to retreat, to get away, now. John's apprehension compounded as he quickly returned to his car and tried again to start it, only to find that it wouldn't turn over. Instead, it sputtered, causing him to curse, his hand turning the key again and again, but with no luck. John quickly realized he was stranded and with no other option but to explore his grandfather's property. Exiting the car once again, John took tentative steps toward the house, his boots plodding through the mud and gravel beneath his feet. The closer he got, the more he realized just how rundown the property was. The porch itself, it was falling apart, and the paint on almost every structure was peeling, and pieces of the house dangled loosely. Despite its decrepit facade, John felt there was something fascinating and even entrancing about the place. He Even his panic set in, and as John drew rapid, shallow breaths, he couldn't help but wonder what mysteries the place held. It all felt like a secret. It all felt like a secret all his own, a success accomplished and finally made real. Approaching the house, John couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The shadows seemed to follow him, and the house appeared to stare. The wind whispered riddles he couldn't quite answer. He shivered despite not feeling cold. As John grew ever closer, he could see some of the shutters hanging off of their hinges and weeds growing through cracks in the paving stones. Cobwebs decorated everything like off-season Halloween props, with spiders as big as palms of his hands, lazily sunning atop their strands. It's one thing, the way Word lays out. I'm looking at this in a Word document. I'm like, man, that's a long ways away. I need to read it on a device closer. Gulping one breath after another, John hesitantly stepped onto the porch, which creaked loudly in protest. He felt as though he disturbed something ancient and far more powerful than himself. Peering through the dusty windows, he couldn't see much inside. Just sheets covering exposed furniture where the curtains were not drawn. John tried the front door, but it would not budge, and there was no key anywhere to be found. Cursing, he felt a pang of disappointment, but also a twinge of relief, thinking that maybe it would be best that he couldn't immediately get inside. Perhaps that could wait until morning. 3. See, that's not bad, I don't think. I think it does a pretty decent job there. Hey, what's up? What's up, Fallen Hero? Thanks for the 3 there. And the bye. See you there, you know? I think it's just fun to play with the thing, like I said. I fell asleep. This is like a lullaby. It's the patterns when I read. You know, when I talk, I've always adopted like a calm pattern. I think it's a therapy. I think it's a therapy tool. You know, you adopt a calm sense of speech. That way, when you're talking to somebody that they're disjointed from reality and they want to hurt everyone, maybe they don't want to hurt you. You know, by the way, so I was looking up, you know, there's an incident that happened, and it's playing both. Well, let's just say it's playing all over social media. I don't know if you've all seen this, but that's at Jordan Neely, the subway incident, you know, where you have the guy that, there's video of him basically in a chokehold. He ends up dying from it. And, you know, there's a lot of controversy surrounding it. Now, I saw an article that came out that I actually thought was actually quite telling. It was a commentary on all of these people. You know, I'm talking about political talking heads, both sides, not giving a crap about people that are homeless or in situations or that have mental health issues or that might be dangerous. You know, they don't give a crap about these people in life, but they do when they become some kind of political currency. And I thought, man, you know, that's telling. So I was looking through some of the commentary, and it told me, you know, just how out of touch people are on subjects like mental health. There were people that were saying things like, well, this guy, he should have been institutionalized. And I was looking at the commentary there, and you could tell that the person that was talking about this and lots of other people, they didn't even understand there are no institutions. You can be stabilized at a place. They may take you in for stabilization if you have decent insurance. Maybe you can stay a little bit longer, but typically what stabilization means, you make it through a shift, maybe 2, your behavior, that seems managed. And then, well, you either go back to family or you go back to exactly where you were. So there is no institution. There is no place for the mentally unwell to become well. You can jail them, or yeah, you can pretend to do something about it. And I was reading an article and I thought, that's really, it's really telling. It's just like any situation, situations where in life a person, that people they didn't care. They wouldn't pause for a minute to give somebody change. In most of these, you wouldn't pass laws that would help folks out, but in death, they become political fodder, and the political fodder is useful enough that, well, now a person matters. And it's a shame. It's a shame that faux concern that couldn't have been real concern, that actually did something about the circumstances, prevented all of this stuff. By the way, I don't use a subway, and well, I was reading about the new the New York subways. I was reading some of the incidents people were noting, and I kept thinking, man, subway sounds horrible. It sounds absolutely horrible. I remember in the 80s, reading you remember movies like, I don't know if you've seen them, but like Death Wish. They were based on actual incidents. Well, loosely based, let's just say. You had people. The subways were so violent at the time, were so dangerous that vigilantes. You had vigilante groups, guardian angels. I mean, they would quote unquote police these areas because the police themselves, they wouldn't do it, and it just it sounds like such a mess. Really, there are so many other issues that are coming up in this that are just ignored. The fact that situations like this shouldn't occur in the first place. Like, this situation was preventable. It was preventable no matter how you look at it. If you look at it as a law enforcement issue, it's preventable. If you look at it as a structural issue, it's preventable. If you look at it as a mental health issue, it's preventable. But all these people that use it as political fodder don't give a damn about any of that. They only care at the end of the day when it's useful, when they can say, oh, well, look at this. This is such a tragedy that it happened. Yeah. Like I said, it disgusts me. I can't look at political feeds very long. And a problem with Twitter right now is it pushes them more and more. Like, I don't keep up with long-standing politicians. And currently, like in the last day, I've been recommended everything from like Biden, Clinton, Obama. They're in my recommendations currently. I also, I have them on the other side as well. But I remember those like straight up. I mean, they came back to back, and I was like, what are these based on? They're not liked by anyone that I'm following. They're not commenting on these things, but they're being forced on me because Twitter, it seems to like to do that. And a lot of people have been complaining about that lately. They've been complaining about, this forced politicization of their timelines. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, let me see. New York was horrible in the 70s and 80s. New York now is different. Pisses me off listening to politicians trash New York when their homes are. Well, it's crazy. Every place. I can't imagine, like, I can't imagine the mindset that looks at entire states and calls them flyover states, for example. Oh, that's just a flyover state. I've heard that for the longest time about Tennessee, where I live. You're talking about, I can go outside my house and stretch my legs. I like that idea. I like the idea that you have to, you're going to have specific cities that have a little bit of a different feel. But for the most part, I mean, you're just culturally different way of life, slower. It's a slower way, calmer. That whole stereotype of sitting down on a porch and drinking a little tea, whatever, that really did exist. People used to do that all the time. You could go, you could hang out, you could go, and people would, especially in areas. I put up a quote. I was reading a book. I like to read books by smugglers and stuff like that. And I started reading a memoir by Richard Reeves. Richard Reeves, he was I read the book Blow. And, the Johnny Depp movie, I read the book that's based on. And after that, I can't remember if that's called Blow or I can't remember the exact name of it. But anyway, I read it. I audiobooked it in. And then after that, I started reading Smuggler or listening to Smuggler by Roger Reeves. Now, Roger Reeves is fascinating. He actually, he does such a good job. He's in prison. He's probably going to be in prison for the rest of his life. But he does he comes across as so genuine. Like it's very rare. A lot of these people, they come across as, well, this guy, I mean, he details his entire life and the level of detail, it's something else, which is crazy because he talks about paying off politicians, talks about, millions of dollars changing hands in Arkansas, just crazy stuff. But, yeah, I mean, when you look at, you look at, a lot of these things that come up, a lot of the discussions, politicians behind the scenes, whoo, man, they're just all the same. Like you and I said. Anyway, John, thanks for 20 there. The ex-U.S. Marine that ended up taking that man's life will be vilified for trying to be a good Samaritan. Contrast to that story from a year ago when people in Philly did nothing while a woman was assaulted. In this day and age, it does not pay to be a quote-unquote good Samaritan, to help people. Like it's sad to say, but it doesn't. I'm not even commenting on this particular story. I'm just saying, like, the reality of it is. The reality is that, the old adage, no good deed goes unpunished. Yeah. It really doesn't sometimes. You have so many people out there that end up trying to do something helpful or whatever, and by circumstance, I mean, there was a case I was reading about where a guy gave a lady a lift, trying to make sure that nobody took advantage of her. He gave her a lift from a bar to her home. Well, the next day she accused him of sexual assault. And it came out that wasn't the case. After he had gone to, I believe he went to jail for a while. I have to pull that up because it was kind of a fascinating read. It's been a couple of weeks since I read it though. And I found it fascinating because this guy, he was accused of the very thing that he didn't want to happen to someone. He was trying to be nice about it, but at the end of the day, the person that the person that falsely accused him, the reason that they did it, by the way, is they wanted to guilt their friends into not giving them a ride home. So they destroyed someone's life, guilting friends into not giving a ride home. I mean, that's crazy. Now, again, when I bring these things up, I always want people to very well understand that for false accusations, there's the other side. There are abusers out there. There are horrific accounts that happen, horrific ones, and finding the balance in it's become the only way. The only way I see that you create a balance is there has to be some type of consequence for just overtly lying about stuff like this. There has to be. Now, you'll have the fire back. Well, not everyone can prove what went on. Well, you can sometimes prove that something is false. You can just, you can tell, like there'll be video exonerating someone. If a person, like when somebody, like Alice Sebold, when she sends a black man to prison for freaking almost 20 years and she monetizes this, knowing that dude didn't do it, she should go to jail. She shouldn't have walked. But all she had to do was do a little apology here and there. She'll probably end up settling for a dollar amount when it comes to the end of it. Nothing will happen, though. I mean, nothing. Her name will continue. She'll still have a career. And at the end of the day, these settlements that people reach, like, I mean, think about that. Let's see. So the settlement with the state on the Alice Sebold thing. Give me 1 minute. Let me figure up something real fast. I think the guy, he got $550,000, if I'm not mistaken. When's that? I'm figuring that up. Okay, so he got 550,000. He spent 16 years in jail. Actually, he may have spent 7. Let's just say 16. So I'm figuring up how much he made a day. So per day for prison, could you imagine this? When you break it down, so he, there are people like, well, he got $500,000 in restitution. Yeah, he made $84 a day. Would you go to jail for $84 a day? Would you go to prison for $84 a day? Would you give up all everything for the next? Would you give up everything in your life, every opportunity, for less than $100 a day? Most people would say no. If you say yes, you're probably in some pretty dire straits. So that, 500,000, $550,000, that may sound like a lot of money until you actually figure up. And in some states, they don't give you any money. They have loopholes that say that they're not accountable if you're, it's just like false arrest. So if you're say you go in and say you're falsely arrested, or you say you're falsely accused of a crime. You go in, you pick up a lawyer, you have to bail yourself out and stuff. Bail money, I believe, you can get back. But as far as all the costs, of standing against the state, being found not guilty, you're going to eat that money. You're going to end up eating it. Maybe you can sue. Maybe one day you'll get something back. But not usually. Not usually. It's sad. Like I said, it's a sad state of affairs when the same people tell you that we can't trust we can't trust policing. We can't trust any of these systems of governance. But at the same time, they will tell you, yeah, well, you know what? False accusations, they don't exist. That's not a big problem. It's just so weird to me. What's up, Britt? Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for the membership. Welcome to the Tuggernauts. Thank you for that. I appreciate that there. $84 a day is over $10 an hour. Yeah. What a wage, right? What a wage. Woo, man. I mean, I can only like the horror story. What's sad? We talked about Harvey Weinstein, right? Being not an open secret, but just being acknowledged as what he is. Well, we know what happens to people in prison. We know what happens to them. It's not a secret. People would call that an open secret, but it's not a secret. I mean, it's just widely established. You go to jail, you're gonna have some problems. You have problems of the loving and cuddling variety, and that's. I mean, again, that shouldn't happen to anyone. By the way, that shouldn't happen to anyone. I don't think that jailhouse justice should be happening. I think we should have a justice system that deals with it on its own. Although there are, let's call them child enthusiasts. The ones that are proven. I think those people. It's hard for me not to argue with jailhouse justice sometimes, but I mean, as a standard though, it's crazy. We just ignore the fact that monstrous things happen to people in prison. And this guy, God knows what happened to him. I mean, could you imagine, people look at it too as he spent 16 years in prison, 17 years, whatever, right? He probably didn't think he was ever going to get out. Well, having hope. I mean, honestly, would you have hope after that long? I can't imagine it. I can't imagine not thinking that I would drown, that I would never get out. And to see somebody monetize my name, the only reason that some of these people are getting out of prison now is because technology changed. Otherwise, it would have never, like a lot of evidence that would exonerate more people. When they talk about false imprisonment, it's fascinating to me that we're told false accusations don't exist, and yet, or they don't ruin lives, and yet we see people being freed from jail, free from prison, rather, after lengthy stays. We're told 1 out of 10 people is in prison. That's falsely in prison. 1 out of 10. Now, out of that, I'm not sure. I'd be curious how many of those people are actually accused of of sexual crimes, because I'd be very curious to find out whether or not they're added into those statements. And also, when they give you statistics on that, how do you give it's kind of like prevented crimes. How exactly do you keep a statistic like that? In certain situations, I could see where they come up with a statistic, but by and large, they tell you, well, that doesn't happen that often. How would you know? It's just like the idea again, of prevented crime. I see people talk about, well, how many crimes really prevent? How would we know? You don't hear about prevented crimes because there's no statistic for that, because the crime didn't occur. So I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to end here. We need to, tomorrow, again, Colonel Kurtz. I'm going to go over there sometime. I don't know. She's going to do a 24-hour stream, though. Check it out. Have fun with it. And tomorrow night, Flashcast is on, of course. I'll be on there. I may live stream a little bit tomorrow. I'm not sure yet. I want to get back to, my goal is to at least have 3 live streams a week, and then get back to at least 5. I'd been doing about 5. I like that place, 5 live streams. But we're going. We had a couple this week, and we'll keep building them up. I think it's been a good start. Again, I get back into the flow of things, but I appreciate y'all showing up too. Like I said, I taking time away from YouTube. You never know. With this beast, but it's been good so far. So thank you all. But anyway, I'm going to end here. Thank you.